Let me ask you something, and I want you to reflect deeply, not just with your mind, but with your conscience. And how many warnings does a person need before they finally listen? How many times can the truth knock on your door before you stop pretending not to hear it? What we're witnessing right now in the world, individually and collectively, is not randomness. It's not coincidence. It's consequence. And consequence, when ignored long enough, becomes wrath. Not the kind of wrath that explodes in emotion, but the kind that arrives after patience has run its course. The kind of wrath that doesn't need to shout because it has already spoken again and again and been dismissed. God is not angry the way a person gets angry. His anger isn't impulsive. It's not chaotic. It's structured. It's rooted in justice. Divine anger is the result of continuous, willful ignorance of what is right, and we've done that. As a species, we've rejected alignment. What we know deep down is true. We've chosen convenience over character, noise over stillness, distraction over devotion. You can feel it, can't you? This inner tension, this quiet anxiety that something is deeply off. Not just in the world, but in you. Not random. That's not random. That's your soul reacting to misalignment. It's a warning system. And just like pain in the body, spiritual discomfort is there to punish you. It's there to alert you. But what happens when you ignore the alert long enough? The body breaks down. The system crashes. Judgment arrives, not as cruelty, but as consequence. And this is where we stand now. On the edge, there are no more delays. There are no more second chances hiding in the background. We are down to the final 24 hours, not literally in the sense of clock time, but spiritually, symbolically, and for some literally. This is the threshold moment. Either you respond or you remain asleep. Either you realign or you get left behind. It's that simple. It's important to understand that God's anger is not emotional instability. It's a mirror. When God shows us his anger, he is showing us ourselves, what we become, we've tolerated, what we've prioritized. That anger is meant to awaken, not destroy. But if you ignore the awakening, the destruction becomes necessary. So I ask again, how many more signs do you need? When the world is falling apart, when your soul feels empty, when time keeps speeding up and yet meaning keeps slipping away, how long will you wait to confront the truth that you've avoided? The truth that you've been called, that you've been warned, and that your inaction is not neutral, it's rebellion. What most people don't realize is that silence is a response. Indifference is a decision, and delay is a form of denial. You can't keep blaming the world, blaming circumstances, blaming God. At some point, you have to look in the mirror and ask, have I become the very thing I said I'd never be? Have I drifted so far from truth that I can't even recognize it anymore? And here's where it gets serious. God's silence was never absence. It was grace. That grace is closing. This message, this moment, this is the last knock on your door. Not out of hatred, but out of love. The kind of love that doesn't want to see you fall, but won't force you to rise either. That decision is yours. Let that sink in, because what comes next is not about punishment. It's about purification, and the fire that's coming doesn't burn randomly. It only burns what refuses to change. Let the weight of that truth move you, not to fear, but to action. Time is not just a measurement, it's a test. And these next 24 hours are not ordinary hours. They are a divine compression of consequence and opportunity. They represent the narrow space between who you are right now and who you are meant to become. The question is, what are you going to do with them? We tend to assume we have more time. That's the illusion we live under. We push things off, we wait for the right moment. But if you look at history, if you look at your own life, you'll realize the moments that truly changed everything didn't come with advance notice. They came suddenly, and only those who were prepared, internally, spiritually, could recognize and respond to them. This is one of those when we say you have 24 hours, don't mistake it for fear-based pressure. It's not about panic. It's about presence. It's about becoming radically aware that time, in its highest form, is a moral space. In every hour, you're shaping your future self. You're either aligning with your higher purpose or drifting further from it. And in a moment like this, when everything is shifting, that choice becomes magnified. Psychologically, urgency is a strange thing. It can push you into chaos or clarity, depending on the depth of your awareness. Most people, when faced with pressure, react. They escape. They numb. But if you approach urgency with inner stillness, it becomes a forge. A sacred pressure that sharpens your senses and burns away your distractions. That's what these 24 hours are meant to do. Not to scare you, but to focus you. You have one day to stop lying to yourself. One day to stop pretending you're okay with how far you've fallen out of alignment. One day to make a decision, not a shallow resolution, but a soul-level turn toward what matters most. Because here's the reality, your future doesn't begin someday, it begins now. The moment you decide to become fully responsible for your inner world. There are two types of people in these final hours. The first group waits, scroll, they scroll, they philosophize, but they don't act. They want signs, but I ignore the silence that is already a sign. The second group moves quietly with discipline and direction. They feel the weight of the moment, and instead of crumbling, they bow. Not to fear, but to responsibility. It's not about doing everything. It's about doing what is you right, Lou. Maybe it's one honest conversation, one act of forgiveness, 1 hour of deep prayer, solitude, repentance, clarity. One courageous decision to walk away from the version of yourself that was never meant to last. But don't misunderstand. You're not being asked to perform. You're being asked to transform. There is no checklist that will save you. No routine that can replace repentance. This isn't about appearing good. It's about becoming real. Because at the end of these 24 hours, you won't be judged by what you thought. You'll be judged by what you chose. What would happen if you treated this day like it truly mattered? What would shift if you walked through these hours as if your entire future depended on it? Because it does. The danger isn't that you'll fail. The danger is that you'll wait, that you'll convince yourself there's still time when the door is already closing. So take this day seriously. Because it might be the most important day of your life. Don't waste sacred time pretending to be asleep. The hour is late. The moment is now. There's a concept that's often misunderstood. This idea that we live in secrecy, that our thoughts and actions are ours alone, invisible unless spoken or acted out. But what if I told you nothing is truly hidden? That even in your most private moments, a record is being kept, not just by the divine, but by your very being. Everything you do is recorded, internally and externally. Psychologically, we know this. The subconscious mind doesn't forget. Every word you speak, every habit you build, every time you compromise your values, it's being etched into the architecture of who you are. Spiritually, it goes even deeper. Your life is not just unfolding in time, it's unfolding in the presence of something greater. Call it divine intelligence, call it God, but make no mistake, heaven is watching. This is not meant to scare you, but to awaken you. Because if you truly understood that every moment is observed, not judged by human standards, but by the standard of truth, it would change the way you live. Not out of fear, but out of reverence. Reverence for life, for integrity, for purpose. You see, we often act differently when someone is watching. We become more mindful, more disciplined, careful with our choices. But the truth is, someone is always watching. And more importantly, you are always watching yourself. Every action you take that goes against your highest values, your soul sees it. And whether you admit it or not, it builds something inside you. Either it strengthens you or it stains you. This is why people walk around feeling heavy without knowing why. It's not just stress. It's not just the world. It's the weight of unacknowledged choices, the accumulation of compromises, the inner burden of living out of alignment while pretending everything is fine. Right now, in this very moment, you're being observed, not in a punitive way, but in a way that reflects truth back to you. The spiritual eye doesn't blink. It doesn't forget. It sees clearly. And what it sees is the gap between who you are pretending to be and who you are called to become. So ask yourself, if today was your final record, would it be accurate? Would it be whole? Would it speak of courage, discipline, love, and truth? Or would it show avoidance, fear, pride, and denial? There's something deeply liberating about understanding that you're being seen. Because once you accept that truth, you stop performing for the world and you start aligning with what's real. You stop wasting energy hiding and start directing that energy toward transformation. You stop negotiating with your lower self and start walking in integrity. This level of awareness isn't paranoia, it's clarity. And clarity is what this moment demands, because these next 24 hours are not just a test of behavior, they're a test of character. And character is not built in public, it's revealed in private. Your life is not a random sequence of events, it's a message, a signal, and someone somewhere is reading it. Whether that's the divine or your future self or the people whose lives will be shaped by your choices, they're watching. The question is, what will they see? You don't need to fear being seen. You need to fear why not becoming someone worth seeing. So live the next 24 hours like everything counts, because it does. There's something paradoxical about divine judgment. Most people fear it, yet ignore it. They talk about God's mercy like it's a permanent safety net, always there, always available, no matter what. But mercy isn't passive. It's not an unlimited credit line. It's a door, and like every door, it can close. Right now, that door is still open, but it won't be forever. We often confuse delay with denial. We think, if nothing has happened yet, then maybe nothing will. But silence is not absence. Divine silence is often mercy in disguise. It gives you time to wake up, time to reflect, time to turn around. But mercy without response turns into judgment. That's the principle, that's the pattern. It has played out across history, across civilizations, and now it plays out in your personal life. God is not looking for perfection. He's not measuring you by religious performance or external behavior. He's looking at your posture, your sincerity, your willingness to change when truth confronts you. Because real transformation never starts from the outside in. It starts when something in you breaks, the pride, the resistance, you go to bed, the illusion that you can fix everything on your own. That breaking is the beginning of grace, but grace has a time limit. Not because God is impatient, but because He knows what happens when people are given unlimited time. They delay, they rationalize, they keep doing what they've always done, assuming that they'll have the strength to shift later. But the truth is, later never comes. Tomorrow becomes next week becomes next year. And suddenly, the door of opportunity is closed, not because God slammed it shut, but because you never chose to walk through it. In these final 24 hours, you're not being asked to do something extraordinary. You're being asked to be honest, to admit what you already know deep down, that something in your life is misaligned. And if it continues, it will cost you more than you can afford. That misalignment may be subtle. It might not be a dramatic rebellion. It might just be compromise. 1 degree off, repeated over time, until you're so far from your original course you don't even recognize self. This is what divine mercy is for. Not to comfort you in your dysfunction, but to call you out of it. Mercy says, I see what you've done, but I also see who you could still become. It's not a reward. It's an invitation. And invitations have deadlines. Psychologically, we tend to respond only when pain becomes unbearable. But spiritually, you're being asked to respond before the pain arrives, to choose humility over humiliation, to act now not because you're desperate, but because you're aware. This level of awareness is rare. It requires stillness. It requires courage. It requires you stop negotiating with your old self and start aligning with your higher self, the version of you that honors truth, walks with discipline, and stops pretending they have more time. The storm doesn't wait for you to prepare. The clock doesn't slow down so you can decide. And mercy doesn't last forever when it's ignored. What you do now determines whether you face judgment or transformation, and that's nothing anyone else can choose for you. So I'll say it clearly, you still have time, but not much. Don't let the softness of mercy fool you into inaction. It is soft, but it's not weak. It's the last hand reaching out before the flood. Grab it. Let it pull you out before the waters rise. Because when the door closes, it won't matter how close you were. Only whether you stepped through. There's something profound about moments of testing. They don't just reveal what you know, they expose who you ever are. And whether you realize it or not, you are in a test right now. Not a test designed to punish you, but one that demands clarity. The question is simple, though the implications are heavy. Will you answer the call or will you ignore it? Every one of us is being called to something higher. That calling doesn't always come with fanfare. It rarely feels convenient. It's often quiet, subtle, even uncomfortable. And most people miss it. Not because it wasn't clear, but because they were too distracted, too afraid, or too busy protecting the life they've outgrown. They feel the pull. They sense the discomfort, but instead of leaning in, they run. They explain it away. They say, not yet, or maybe later. But there is no later anymore. The time for delay has passed. The call is now. Spiritually speaking, this is not just a test of your behavior. It's a test of your identity. When you're called, the question isn't just, what should I do? It's, who am I becoming? Are you the one who rises in moments of pressure, or the one who folds? Are you the one who aligns with truth, even when it costs something, or the one who keeps negotiating with their comfort? This test doesn't care about your past. It doesn't care about what you've done, how long you've been stuck, or how far you've drifted. It only cares about right now. The present moment is sacred because it is the only moment where true change is possible. You are not being asked to carry the weight of your entire life. You are being asked to make one decision Will I answer the call? Psychologically, we tend to underestimate the power of a single decision. We think change has to be gradual, slow, drawn out over years. But in reality, transformation begins the moment you say, no more. No more excuses. No more hiding. No more pretending that you're not meant for more. That one decision might not solve everything instantly, but it shifts your trajectory. And in a moment like this, trajectory is everything. People love the idea of being chosen, but they forget that being chosen means being tested. It means being stretched, being refined, being separated from what is familiar. That's why so many people back away from their calling. Not because they don't hear it, but because answering it requires letting go of the version of themselves they've become comfortable with. But here's the truth. The version of you that avoids the call cannot survive what's coming. That part of you, the part that hesitates, delays, hides, it has to die. And something stronger, deeper, truer must take its place. That's what this 24-hour window is for. It's a sacred invitation to let the old self go and step into who you were always meant to be. Not someday, not eventually. But now, don't wait for permission. Don't wait until you feel ready. Readiness is not a feeling, it's a choice. And if you're waiting to feel certain before you act, you'll miss the moment entirely. Action creates clarity. Movement builds momentum. And faith, real faith, is demonstrated, not discussed. You don't need another sign. You don't need another message. This is the message. So I'll ask you one final time, will you answer? Or will you ignore the call? Because silence is not neutral. Indecision is still a decision. And if you choose not to act, then you've already answered. Change is coming, whether you're ready for it or not. The world is already shifting. You can feel it. Structures are collapsing. Norms are dissolving. What once felt predictable no longer feels stable. But the real question isn't, will the world change? It's, will you change with it or be crushed by it? We often wait for external change to inspire internal change. We say, once things calm down, then I'll get focused. Once life becomes more manageable, then I'll make better decisions. But that's an illusion. The outer world doesn't wait for you to mature. The storm doesn't pause until you're emotionally ready. If you don't evolve from within, then what happens outside of you will dictate your life, and that's no way to life. Every major transformation starts inside. This is a principle not just of spiritual development, but of psychological growth. If the foundation within you is unstable, it doesn't matter how impressive the surface looks. And this moment, the pressure, the urgency, the unease you feel, it's not trying to break you. It's trying to reveal to you what needs to be rebuilt. Transformation doesn't happen by accident. It happens when you stop resisting what is being stripped away. The discomfort you're feeling isn't punishment. It's an invitation. An invitation to become the kind of person who can carry what's coming. The world doesn't need more people chasing comfort. It needs people grounded in clarity. People whose identity isn't shaped by trend or trauma, but by truth. And truth demands responsibility. That's the part we avoid. Real change costs something. You have to leave behind what's familiar. You have to let go of habits that kept you numb, beliefs that kept you small, and relationships that kept you stuck. It's not easy, but it's necessary, because you can't walk into the next chapter carrying the weight of a story that no longer fits. If you want your external life to change, you have to first become the kind of person who no longer tolerates what you used to accept. That's the shift. Not forced from the outside, but chosen from within. And that choice, it begins now. It's easy to focus on what's collapsing around you, to point at the world and say, look how chaotic it is. But the chaos around you will always reflect the confusion within you. The world changes when individuals change, and individuals change when they stop running from their own truth. What this next season will demand of you is alignment, not perfection, but integrity. The willingness to live in a way that is consistent with what you claim to value. To stop settling for half-truths, for surface-level distractions, for a version of yourself that no longer matches what your spirit is capable of becoming. Because the most dangerous thing you can do right now is stay the same. In a world that's unraveling, remaining unchanged isn't strength, it's avoidance. And avoidance has consequences. So here we are. The window is closing, the pressure is real. And the time to transform isn't tomorrow, it's right now. Not in theory, not in conversation, but in practice. Let the world change. But change yourself first. Because when the shaking begins, only those who are rooted will remain standing.